Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you're doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, today on the Dungeon Dive, we're going to start a new little series, and this is a series on how I am modifying Shadows of Brimstone to be more like a solo RPG. I'm changing some of the systems, getting rid of some things, barely adding anything really, and all in an attempt to get the game played more often. So, why am I doing this? So, I love Shadows of Brimstone, but it's just not a game that I play enough, especially for how much I do like it. And that's mainly for two reasons. I think that the map tiles are too big for my small gaming table, and the minis take up too much space and time for me. I still have dozens of sprues of miniatures to assemble, and I really just can't be bothered with them. I don't have the time or the desire to assemble them and even paint them or dip them in any way. It takes time and space to sort and store all the minis. It takes time and space to pull them out every time there is combat. And so I've been thinking about ways to play Shadows of Brimstone without the tiles and without the minis. I realize that minis are super important to a super important part of the hobby to a lot of people. And hey, you know what? That's great. And I also know that most people don't really mind the huge piles of tiles like I do. A lot of people who play games have much bigger tables than I do. I don't have the space for a big gaming table in my house, so I have to get by with what I have. And again, that is super great too. I'm not saying that this is the only way to play Shadows of Brimstone. I'm not saying that my way is the best way. Nothing even close to that. I'm just going to present to you how I am going to be playing Shadows of Brimstone from now on because I have had a lot of fun with this system and with developing the system. So those two things, the minis and the tiles, were the things that were preventing me from enjoying the game that I should be playing more often. Another reason is I've been thinking a lot lately about how to enjoy the things I already have more. And it's really pretty easy to modify, hack, and house rule various games to make them fit more into the kind of game that you are looking to play, the kind of game that I want to play. So many of the games that we discuss and that we enjoy on the Dungeon Dive are at least RPG adjacent. They have things like skill checks, stats, NPCs, random encounters, persistent characters, bestiaries, etc. Shadows of Brimstone is actually really close to an RPG. I'm actually surprised that it doesn't have a GM section, a Game Master section in the rules like Warhammer Quest does, and even like Memento Mori does. Memento Mori and Shadows of Brimstone both being derivative of Warhammer Quest. So Shadows of Brimstone has all the things that I'm looking for in a good solo RPG. Okay, it has a very easy system for skill checks. Your characters have a number of skills. They have agility, cunning, spirit, strength, lore, and luck. And those create a dice pool. So if you needed to do an agility check for the cowgirl here, she has an agility of 2. I would take my 2d6. And it also already has a built-in system for difficulty on the checks. A 5 or a 6 is a normal difficulty. A 4, 5, or 6 is an easy difficulty. And a hard difficulty would be a 6. So my cowgirl, she needs to jump a little river in order to escape being mauled by a wolf or something. She has to make an agility check. We're going to say that's a 5 or a 6. And she scored 1, 5. So she would make that jump. You could also do a system where you look for maybe multiple successes. Maybe you need to have 3 successes for the entire party. So if I was playing these 2 characters here, maybe I needed 3 successes for some kind of an agility check. My Indian scout's agility is 3. My cowgirl's agility is 2. That would be 5d6. I could roll that and I would look to see, okay, so that was a pretty bad result. I would have failed that test. So it has that kind of system already built into the game as part of the core mechanisms of Shadows of Brimstone. Very easy to adapt to a solo game. With the Hexcrawl system, so we are going to be playing with the Hexcrawl system, and that is, of course, the big fan-made campaign system that I will never play Shadows of Brimstone without. I absolutely love Hexcrawl. You've seen me cover that before in my long Shadows of Brimstone series. But with the Hexcrawl campaign, it has persistent towns that are easy to design and expand with NPCs. They could be shop owners or different people coming through the town. Very, very easy to handle. It has piles of cards that contain random encounters and random things that can happen. So you don't need to worry about getting more tables, more charts, more things printed. I already have so many things printed for this game and so many things that are available out of the box. It has a huge bestiary, just a ton of monsters to fight. This isn't even all of them. This is just the ones from like the core Western set. I'm not using anything from Forbidden Fortress in this series, focusing on Western adventures here. But it has a huge bestiary with all kinds of interesting monsters with simple AI and simple abilities. It has a ton of loot. My gear stack is just absolutely huge. This is like a quarter of it or something. And all kinds of different gear and loot with neat little pictures and sometimes little snippets of lore and just all kinds of interesting things for our heroes to discover on their journeys. It has level appropriate threat decks that you can draw from for when you need to fight. The game is already balanced I should say, for certain numbers of heroes in your party, in your posse. So if you're playing with 2 heroes, then you will use the low threat, so you don't need to worry about balancing. It's already made straight out of the box for solo play, so turning it into more of an RPG is even easier in that sense. I think that it is easier to turn this game into an RPG, into a solo role-playing game, than it is to take another Western-themed role-playing game and turn that into the kind of game that I want. There are 3 main changes that I'm making to the game. I'm eliminating map exploration on tiles, I'm eliminating all of the miniatures, and I am abstracting some elements of combat. So I've designed my own system for exploration, and that is a combination of my original house rules for Shadows of Brimstone and some new things, and I'm really liking the exploration system. Combat is going to be abstracted by only having 3 ranges. You're either in melee, you're in melee with more than one, or you're at range. And no minis are being used at all because I just don't find that they really add anything interesting to the game. In this video, we will be discussing the beginnings of the campaign, my characters, how I'm setting up the first town, and using those elements to get the ball rolling on the story. And then we will go over my custom rules for exploration. So I recently finished watching The English on Amazon, and that is the best Western thing that I have seen since, or maybe my favorite Western thing I have seen since Once Upon a Time in the West. I absolutely love The English. I think it is a masterpiece of Western fiction, of Western cinema. It contains a lot of the things that I look for in a Western. It's somewhat spiritual, but it's not weird. It has a visual poetry to it. It's right there on the borderline of being weird. If something weird would have happened in The English, if a ghost would have appeared or something like that, something supernatural, I would not have been surprised. Kind of like how in each season of Fargo, a little supernatural element is added. The English doesn't have that, but it's almost there. And it's a wonderfully written, amazing acting, Just an absolute masterpiece of Western cinema. And so that has inspired my party. And we are playing as a cowgirl and an Indian scout. Of course, my Indian is going to be named Eli. My tribal person there will be named Eli. And the cowgirl will be Cornelia. So Cornelia, she has her starting gear. She has her rider's rifle, her bandana, and a lasso. I chose the Watchman as her initial power, and the Watchman says you always activate before enemies at your initiative level, so she gets to go first. If other enemies have an initiative of 3, the cowgirl Cornelia gets to activate before them. And also, all heroes in my posse gain a +2 initiative during the first attack of an ambush. She also starts with the rider's rifle. It replaces her pistol. And for her starting gear, for her personal item, I chose, of course, the locket. For those of you who have seen the English, you know the importance of the locket to this character. So I thought that was very fitting thematically. And then we have Eli here, our Indian scout. Eli is the scout, so he's going to be holding back the darkness. He is armed or has the lantern equipped. And then the Indian scout here, Eli, he has his carbine rifle. He has his hatchet. For his starting gear, for his personal item, I chose his weathered poncho because I loved Eli's poncho in the English. And that does give him 4 health, which is actually pretty good because he has 10 health to begin with. And then for his starting ability, I chose heightened senses. And once per turn, you may re-roll a single to hit roll or defense roll. So that should come in handy as well. So those are my 2 characters. Those are the 2 characters in the posse. So when we are starting out with Hexcrawl, what I usually like to do is I like to come up with a starting town, a town that we have just arrived at the beginning of our adventure. And we do have these handy charts that you can print out for your Hexcrawl to keep track of your campaign information. I'm playing a sandbox style campaign. I have my posse members of Eli and Cornelia. Both of them are at level 1. My posse is at level 1. I'm going to say that I'm starting with 2d6 times 10 gold. So, oh my gosh, a 12. All right, so I have 120 gold for the party. Now, because we're playing my version of the English, one of the things we're going to say is that Cornelia actually has a stash of gold somewhere. And so we're going to kind of keep that in the back of our minds. That might be one of the quests that we want to go on, is to retrieve her stash of gold at some point. I am starting the game on December 18th, which is today's date, the day I am filming this video. And so we will be keeping track of the days there. This campaign tracker, I probably won't be using too much because it's more specifically for the Mind Blast style and the short story style campaigns within the Hexcrawl adventures. We are playing kind of a modified sandbox campaign. And then here we have our town tracker, which is a 2-page spread that keeps track of all of your persistent towns, their locations, what kind of jobs and missions you have, just all your various elements for your 20 towns. There are 20 towns in Hexcrawl. And then you also have your mine tracker. And these are the 20 different mines that we have to go to have missions. So in this campaign, this is a custom campaign, I am saying that we have to close half of the mines. So we have to close at least 11 mines. And the way that we close a mine, the way that we seal it or prevent more evil from coming out of it, is we have a successful adventure within that mine. And we have to do that before a certain number of towns are destroyed. I haven't quite figured out how many. Maybe 6 towns. Maybe before 6 towns are completely destroyed, we have to have successful missions in 11 different mines. Something like that. It's not super important, but it's just giving me kind of a goal here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to determine what our starting town is going to be. And typically, you're going to roll on some random charts. So first of all, let's roll to see. Let me find my D20 here. Let's roll to see what our starting town is. Where is it on the map? 11. Okay, so 11 here is Lestina. Let's find the town of Lestina on the map here. Okay, so here we have Lestina over here at the railroad crossing. So it could be a railroad town, a rail town here. So that's going to be our starting town is Lestina. So the first thing that you do is you want to roll to see the size of the town. And we're going to roll a d8. And that's going to determine how many locations this town has. A 6. Okay, so that will have, it's a medium-sized town. It will have 6 different locations. So a town can have up to 8 different locations. This town here at Lestina, it's going to have 6 different locations. We're going to take our location tokens here. This is a combination of tokens from the Blasted Wastes town and the normal Frontier town. I am including some Blasted Waste materials here in this game. I am not bringing any outside tools to this game to play it as a solo RPG, except for my custom 3d6 Fate Die Oracle system. That is all I'm bringing to the game. I'm trying to play this game as close to the core rules of Shadows of Brimstone as possible, modifying those things that I said earlier. Okay, so we're going to mix up our tokens here to see what kind of locations we're going to have. We're going to draw 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tokens. And let's see what we have. Okay, so in the town of Lestina, we have a gambling hall. We have a church, we have a saloon, a desert marketplace, a wasteland workshop. Both of those are from the Blasted Waste expansion. And finally, we have a frontier outpost. Okay, to recap, the town of Lestina has 6 locations, a gambling hall, a church, saloon, a desert marketplace, a wasteland workshop, and a frontier outpost. So those are the locations that we have available to us in this main town. So the next thing that you want to do in Hexcrawl is you want to roll your type to see what kind of type this town is. It can be a town ruins, a haunted town, a plague town, rail town, a standard frontier town, mining, river, mutant, or an outlaw town. Because this was on a rail system, we could just say that this was a rail town. This is a really good example of when, in my tips for solo role-playing, when I said to cheat as the GM, this is kind of what I meant. And this is going to be a really concrete example of that. So the Frontier Town expansion for Shadows of Brimstone, it comes with information cards for all of the different kinds of towns that I just mentioned. We have Haunted, Outlaw, Rail, Plague, Town Ruins, Mutant Town, River Town, and Mining Town. And I was looking through these to kind of, spark ideas, things that I wanted to experience, fun that I wanted to have. And I came across the Haunted Town. The Haunted Town says some towns have a dark history that they never can truly escape. In some cases, the shadowy past comes back to haunt them, literally. So instead of rolling to see what kind of town Lestina is, I'm just going to cheat and say that it is a haunted town because that's the kind of town that I want to start in. The reason being is because it has this breaking the cursed adventure. And this is a cool little seed to plant in order to get the ball rolling on an interesting story that I want to participate in. So this breaking the curse says, for your next adventure, so this is going to be our first adventure. This is going to be the inaugural adventure that kicks off the adventures of Cornelia and Eli. The heroes may go on a hunt to try to break the curse affecting this town, unless the town is destroyed. So we're going to say if we fail this mission, then this town is destroyed. To do this, play the search party basic mission. Instead of looking for missing townsfolk, the heroes are trying to break the curse. At the end of the mission, roll to see if it is too late as normal. If it is too late, the mission counts as failed. If not, the mission is successful. We're going to modify that a little bit, and we'll talk about how I'm going to do that when we look into exploration. But for now, we're going to say that Lestina is a haunted town. And finally, within the Hexcrawl rules, we're going to roll up our traits. And each town will have one additional trait, and I believe that is a D36 roll. We'll use ivory as the 10s. Okay, 34. This town is boring. Folks here are boring as hell. Okay, so we're going to say that they're not boring, but they're kind of, maybe they are possessed with a spirit of malaise. The spirit that has been haunting them is just causing people to be filled with apathy. They're apathetic. And it's really having a negative impact on the town because they're not able to get their chores done. They're not able to take care of their livestock, to maintain their businesses. They're really struggling. And so we need to get rid of this spirit of apathy that has taken over the town of Lestina. So we're going to take a look at the map and see where the closest mine would be to Lestina. And I think it would be this Clayton Ravine at number 10. And so that is the mine that we are going to in order to initiate this mission here. Okay, so at the beginning of the town, we have entered into the town of Lestina. Put our little meeple down here in the town of Lestina. And the first thing that we have to do in a town is we have to choose if we're going to stay the night in a hotel or a campsite. Today we have enough money. We have 120 gold. So each of our heroes is going to stay in a hotel. So that's going to be 20 gold total. So that takes us down to 100 gold. The next thing we do is we will draw a daily event from the daily event deck that comes with the Frontier Town expansion, as well as you can also buy some little card supplements that contain more daily events. So there's our daily event. Let's see what is in store for us in the town of Lestina, the haunted town of Lestina. This is just another day. Really interesting. So when you are in a town with one of those special types, if you roll just another day, then you have to roll on one of these special daily events on this town. And that is a D6 roll. A 6, a weeping statue. A sign of the darkness to come. All heroes must make a lore 5+ test. If passed, recover 1 grit. If failed, take 2d6 horror hits. Okay, so we arrive into town. It's very spooky. People are affected with this malaise. People are just really lazy, kind of walking around almost like zombies, kind of in a trance. And we come to the center of the town, and it's this old, dilapidated, maybe a fountain. And it's like this statue, this kind of like Catholic statue, maybe it looks like Mary or something, and it's weeping, and it kind of freaks us out. We are not expecting this at all. So we need to make a lore 5+ check. So Eli, his lore is 3. So Eli uses the white dice here. So we're going to take those 3 dice. And then Cornelia, her lore is 3 also. And so we're looking for each one of these to pass with a 5 or higher. Okay, Eli passes with great skill. He knows the superstitions of this weeping statue, and he is not affected by its power. However, Cornelia is. She kind of breaks down. She's having a hard time reconciling this with her more her more skeptical side, is having a hard time reconciling this weeping statue. And so she's going to take 2d6 horror hits. So horror hits, these are damage to sanity, and we can use willpower to save. So let's see how many hits that she takes. 2d6. She takes 6 horror hits. Each one of those does 1 point of damage. But she can prevent those. So she can roll 6 dice because she took 6 hits, and she prevents on a 4 or higher. So she prevents 1, 2, 3, 4 of those she prevents. So she takes 2 points of sanity damage right at the start of the game. So we're going to add 2 points of sanity damage to her card here. So at the start of the game, we should have some grit. We should have 1 grit each. Cornelia, her power is Rough Rider, and at the start of each turn or day in town, if you have no grit, recover 1 grit on a roll of a 4 up on a d6. That is pretty good. I probably could have spent that grit in order to maybe retest her lore test to see if she could have passed it. If I did, maybe she would have passed with flying colors, but I didn't. So we're going to take that 2 points of sanity damage there. Not too bad. We can live with that. Okay, so we've drawn our daily event. The next thing that's going to happen in a town is we have to visit one of the locations. I say this is mandatory because it's fun to roll on these location charts. If they don't want to visit one of the locations, then they can visit the camp. A camp is always available. So we have a saloon, we have a church, we have the Frontier Outpost, we have the Gambling Hall, the Wasteland Workshop, and the Desert Marketplace. I'm going to say that because Cornelia was so kind of distraught by her experience with the weeping statue that she actually goes to the church in order to have maybe talk to a priest about what she just experienced. And maybe the church in this town is one of the places where, because of its holiness, perhaps it's one of the places not quite as negatively impacted by the spirit of apathy that has overtaken this town. Okay, so we're going to roll up on the event chart here to see what happens to Cornelia at the church. 6. Faith to the Forsaken. The preacher's fiery oratory echoes through the mostly empty church. No event. So she just goes and sits and has a nice listen to a preacher. And I think we're going to visit the Desert Marketplace. And let's see what happens to Eli at the Desert Marketplace here. 10. Starving refugees. The back alleys and doorways are crowded with huddled refugees, diseased and hungry. You may give supplies or gold to these refugees to help them on their plight. You may discard 1 side bag token or 100 gold. If you do, you may also recover a grit and remove a corruption point. I forgot to draw my initial side bag tokens. So I'm going to say that each of my characters right now has some bandages. And I'm going to write that down here on my side bag chart. So side bags. So we have Eli. And we have Cornelia. And they each have a bandage. I am not in the position to help these mutants here, or these, what were they? These refugees. I'm just not in the financial position to help them right now. So I'm actually just going to have to let them be, unfortunately. But let's see what we can buy here. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can buy. The market, back alleys. We can sell our Darkstone. We don't have any Darkstone. We can visit a shady alien saloon and get a drink, an alien dancer performance, slot puck. This is gambling. Or we can purchase some items. We can purchase alien chew, which is a plant, which prevents 1 corruption hit. Oh, we take 1 corruption hit to deal 5 sanity, or to heal 5 sanity. We can pick up some scavenger's goggles, a wasteland head wrap, or a water finder. Once per adventure, you may heal D8 wounds from every hero in your... Man, that's 875. That is actually a really cool item. We might want to save up for that item for this kind of persistent Hexcrawl. We can also buy a couple crazy animals. We could get a scrap wagon for 8,500 gold. Let's see. I think I'm going to chill out a little bit and maybe just, let's see here. I'm going to watch the alien dancer performance. And if I get that, if I hit that, I will get another grit, which will bring my grit total up to 2. So this says that gain 10 XP and make a lore 5+ check. Okay, so again, Eli's lore is 3 and a 5. All right, so he enjoys the dance. If successful, you may recover a grit. If failed, take a corruption hit. Okay, so we enjoyed the alien performing dance there, so we're going to take another grit for Eli. So now Eli has 2 grit, and he also gets 10 XP. So in my games of Shadows of Brimstone, XP and gold are always shared as a party. I just find it easier to keep track of. It's one of the things that I don't like bookkeeping. So we're going to add 10 XP to our XP pool as a party. Okay, so each of our characters has had an experience in town. They've visited a location. In Hexcrawl, each town can have up to 1 mission that you can take, or you can also look at the jobs board. I'm not going to look at the jobs board right now because this video is already getting a little long. So maybe on the next time we'll take a look at the jobs board. The jobs are kind of like side missions that you can take, little side quests that can sometimes snowball into bigger missions. But because Cornelia visited the church, she was in the church, and after the sermon, we're going to say that the priest came up to her and has noticed that she's some kind of, traveling hero in this posse that's coming through town. We have an air of heroicness to us, and the priest asks her if we would be willing to take on this job to go to Clayton Ravine and take care of this spirit there that has been haunting Lestina. And we say yes, of course, because that's what we're here to do. We are here to be heroic. We're making choices. We don't always have to rely on dice in a solo RPG. If you want to do the cool thing, do the cool thing. So we say, yes, we will take care of that for you. Of course, we do expect some kind of reward. And the preacher says that, yes, they can take a collection for us when we come back. Maybe Lestina will offer up a place for us to live or something. And this could be kind of our home base. We will figure that out after the adventure. Okay, so we stay the first night in the hotel. We wake up the next morning and we're going to head out to the ravine there. So what you do in Hexcrawl is at the beginning of each day, when you're not in a town, we're going to roll a d8. We are on horses, so we will have a random event that happens in travel on a roll of a 1. And we rolled a 3, so we have no random event on this day. With Hexcrawl, when you're on horse, you have 6 movement points that you can spend for your adventuring. So we're on horseback. We have 6 movement points per day. To move, it costs 1, 2, or 3 movement points to move. I believe if you're on a road, it costs 1. If you're on a railway, it costs 1. Most of the terrain is 2. Some of it is difficult on a 3. So let's kind of chart our path here from Lestina down to Clayton Ravine. Okay, so we're going to travel along this railway here. So that's going to be 1, 2 movement points, and then 2 more to move into Clayton Ravine. Actually, 4 more because we have the ravines here. That's the name. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we make it to Clayton's Ravine in a single day. We don't need to roll for any other types of encounters. And now we can start our mission. So I'm not going to go into, this isn't going to be a super detailed playthrough of this mission. I'm going to do that off camera. But for right now, what I wanted to show you is how I developed my exploration system. And I'm going to show you 2 examples. One, just using the exploration tokens from the base game. And then another example showing you how I would start to use all of these various item tokens that Shadows of Brimstone comes with. And in the game, they say that these aren't used for almost anything except for house rules. And so this is one of the cool things about playing this game in kind of this custom way, is that I can start using some of the neat little things that this game comes with. Okay, so let's do some exploration. Again, this is just going to be a very high level example of how I'm handling exploration in this game. So this particular mission is going to take place in a mine, and only a mine. I'm making the decision, the executive players / GM decision, to not have any other worlds in this particular game. So sometimes, as players of Shadows of Brimstone will know, you might be exploring a mine and then you come across a gate that might lead to another world like the swamps of Jargano or something like that. And that's one of the cool things about this game is the kind of genre busting mashup of different types of games, different types of settings and genres. But for this adventure, we're going to say that we are just going through this map deck here of this basic mine. Now we're going to say for this example here that we are just going to use the generic exploration tokens from Shadows of Brimstone. These exploration tokens, each time you entered in a new room, you would draw one of these tokens and it would tell you what would happen. It would tell you if you were going to have an encounter, maybe if you found a clue. A lot of missions rely on finding these clues. And it would also tell you how many possible doors you would have in order to further explore. Well, in standard Shadows of Brimstone, there really isn't any exploration. There's never any backtracking. There's never any reason to really worry about which direction you're going. But in my original house rules for Shadows of Brimstone, I used these tokens more like the dungeon cards in Warhammer Quest. And I would split these depending on the number of exits. So we're going to continue to use that. I just want to make sure I have all 12 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yep. Okay, we have them all. So these should be nice and shuffled there. And so for this example, we're going to say that we need to find 3 clue tokens. Once we have found 3 clue tokens, then we have whatever our objective is in our objective room, whatever that may be. Again, this is just an example. Okay, so we are at the entrance of our dungeon here, and the first thing we do is we do a hold back the darkness roll, and we're rolling for grit. Since there's no movement, we're not worried about movement in these house rules. So the house rules that I'm using, the rules that I have developed, they kind of nerf some powers. So if enemies or if heroes have any ability that gives them more movement, then that's kind of nerfed, but it also kind of makes other things more powerful, such as range. I'm not really counting range, so all weapons have basically unlimited range. So I think it kind of balances out. At least I don't feel like I am missing anything from moving from one space to the next in using this system here. So the first thing we do is we have to hold back the darkness and roll for grit. The way we roll for grit is just like normal rules. You're going to take a d6 for each character. If you roll a 1, you get a grit. Rolling for holding back the darkness is the same thing. In Shadows of Brimstone, you have a depth track and there is darkness. And every turn you have to roll a certain number. And if you roll that number or higher, then you prevent the darkness from moving down. If you fail and the darkness ever gets to the mine entrance and escapes, that is a way that you can lose that mission. Also, on the other hand, you're also keeping track of your hero's position within the dungeon. And as they move deeper and deeper into the dungeons, it becomes harder and harder to hold back the darkness. So Eli is our lantern bearer. So Eli has the 2d6 here. I need to get a 7 up to hold back the darkness. And I'm looking for 1s on the other d6 to see if my heroes get any grit. Okay, so I rolled a 6. I do not hold back the darkness. The darkness moves down 1. And neither of the heroes rolled a 1, so neither of them get a grit. So that is the first part of the turn. The second part of the turn is draw the next dungeon card in the direction that you are traveling and also move down the darkness track. So every time you reveal a new card, it would be just like revealing a new tile in Shadows of Brimstone, and you will move deeper into the dungeon. So because we are in the entrance, we only have one direction to go. And these exploration tokens, each stack will be a direction. So we are heading in this direction now. We move down 1, we draw a card. It is the Underground Lake. Now the Underground Lake has a encounter tied to it, an advanced encounter, Stirring in the Deep. That advanced encounter cards, all of the advanced encounter cards for the maps I am using are right here. I say that I don't always encounter that because if you do, you encounter them too often. So on a 1 out of 6, I have a 1 out of 6 chance of encountering the Stirring in the Deep. And a 4. Okay, so we do not have that encounter. So special encounter on a d6, 1, yes. We don't. Next thing we do for this room here is we draw an encounter or a quest token. So we're going to draw the encounter, the exploration token, and put that there. Now we will reveal the exploration. I keep calling it encounter. We will reveal the exploration or quest token. So this says that we have 2 encounters and there are 2 possible doors. However, on the map card here, there's only 1 door possible. So we only have 1 exit, so we will continue down this path. But we need to have a couple encounters. So let's draw 2 map encounters here. So these are the mine encounters. Again, this game is overflowing with random encounters. And you can choose, in playing this as an RPG, you can choose how you want to encounter these. You could encounter them just like you would in a game of Shadows of Brimstone and do what they say and move on. Or you could use these as seeds to plant for further adventures. And either way would be good. For now, we're just going to kind of take a look at them and give us a feel of the world. So we come across a stolen arsenal. This room is stockpiled with weapons and munitions, as well as maps of the nearby towns with notes about a plan to attack. Okay, so we have a choice here. We can destroy the stockpile. The heroes may collectively discard 2 dynamite tokens. I don't have any dynamite, so we can't destroy it. We can search for anything of value. Each hero must make a scavenge test. For every 6 rolled, draw a loot card instead of a scavenge card. For every 1 rolled, you set off an outlaw trap. Take D6 wounds, ignoring defense. Or we can ignore it and move on. The next town the heroes visit between adventures will have been attacked by the outlaws, destroying D3 random buildings. So let's go ahead and search for anything of value. So we're going to take a scavenge test. A scavenge test is 3d6, and we're looking for 6s, hoping to avoid 1s. All right. Oh, okay. So we each rolled a 1 and no 6. And this is for every 1 rolled. You set off a trap, taking D6 wounds. Ouch. Okay, so here are Eli's wounds. This could kill Eli straight out of the gate here, and Eli is almost dead. Okay, so that's great. And let's see, Cornelia took only 1 wound. So that would be something like that. Now, we may have to retreat. If I was actually playing this for real, I would retreat maybe because Eli would be almost dead. And that would be something bad that would happen. What is our second? Blood-soaked sand. 5 skeletons lay in this room, face down, covered in tattered clothing and resting on a patch of dark, blood-soaked sand. Their hands seem to be bound. Looks like an execution. Each hero must choose. Search the body, take a moment of silence, or ignore it and move on. I think this would be, both of these could lead to really interesting adventures after this one. And that is one of the reasons why I think Shadows of Brimstone works so well as a potential solo role-playing game. We're just going to discard that because I want to get on with the example. Okay, so we've had our 2 encounters. This has a potential of 2 doors, but our tile we are in right now only has 1 door. So we are continuing down that path. So we're checking for potential exits on the map, comparing the exits to on the token, and dividing accordingly. After all the encounters, we can scavenge. If we choose to scavenge, we roll up to 3d6 with any combination of dice from different characters. If any of the characters rolls a 6, they get to draw a scavenge card. So for instance, I could say that Eli is taking 2 scavenge. He's spending 2 times scavenging, and Cornelia is spending 1. I look for a 6, and we have a scavenge check. So then I would draw something from the scavenge deck. And the reason I split it up between the different party members is because the scavenge deck has a lot of bad things. It's a third bad, a third good, and a third neutral. And so depending on who rolled the 6, they would have to draw the scavenge card, and they might have the bad thing happen to them. And each tile can only be scavenged 1 time. Okay, so let's continue on now. I can either backtrack. I don't have to backtrack because we're still on the main path. And we'll go over backtracking at a later time. But now we are back to holding back the darkness and rolling for grit. So I would do that. And then I'm going to speed up now so you can see how this system works. So we're going to move on to the next tile. And we again have a a room with a possibility of 3 exits and a possibility of a special encounter. I would roll the d6. Okay, no special encounter there. And so then I would, of course, would have also rolled to hold back the darkness and for any grit. And then now I'm going to draw an exploration token. We will reveal that. And we find a gate. I'm ignoring the gates. I'm saying that this is just one door. We would have another encounter, and we have found our first clue of 3. So we're going to keep that token, and we will continue on moving down this path. The paths have not split yet. Okay, so here we have a junction, and no exploration token is drawn in a passage, but we now have 2 different exits. So now we split these tokens into 2 stacks as equal as possible. So now we have a choice. We can go left or we can go right. And we are going to choose to go left. And so now we draw over here, holding back the darkness, of course, after doing any of that. And now we come into the switch curve, which has the potential for a special encounter on a 1 out of 6. Nope. Okay, it has a possibility of 2 different exits. We draw our exploration token because we are now exploring in this direction. And we are attacked. So we would draw a threat, and we would be attacked by a certain number of undead outlaws. I'm not going to focus on combat in this video. We will do that in the next video. But this particular token only has 1 exit, so we are continuing down this path here. So we're going to draw the next room. Okay, it's the Hell Pit, 1 out of 6 for a encounter. No, we will draw our next exploration token, and it has 1 door, 2 encounters, but we have found our second clue. So we're going to add that to our clue stack. Now it only has 1 door, so we're going to continue down this stack here. Our next one is a mining room. Possibility of 3 different exits. And we have an encounter, but this encounter only has 1 door, so we're continuing down this path. Another advanced, maybe the ancient ruins we have found on a 1. No ancient ruins. This has a possibility of 2 doors. We will reveal that, and that is 1 door only. So this is a long stretch that only has 1 possible exit. Coming back here, we have found our dusty crates. A 1. Okay, so then we would draw the dusty crates card here. Dusty crates. The room is filled with dusty crates and barrels. There could be something of use among all of this. Then again, something doesn't smell right in here. So we could do that if we wanted to, but I'm not going to in this example. Okay, so now we have our last exploration token down this passage here. And it is our final clue. But let's say, so we would have found, so this would be our 3rd clue. So this would be our destination. This would be our objective room. But let's say we didn't find that clue. Let's say that maybe this, no, let's find the token. Okay, so let's say that this was the token that we drew and it wasn't a clue. So we would have exhausted down this entire path without finding our 3rd clue. So we would have to backtrack back to the last point where there were exploration tokens still left unexplored. The way backtracking works is you count how many cards you have explored to get back to that junction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so then you take 5d6 and you roll those. And if you roll any 1s, then you are ambushed on the way back. Okay, so we would have been ambushed on the way back. So we would have made it there, and then we would draw another threat and play that out as an ambush attack. So that's how backtracking works. And now we're going to be exploring down this path here. So now we're on this side. Okay, no exploration token. So we keep going down this passage here. No exploration token. And now we are here at this mining room. Has a possibility of 3 exits. Boom. Now we found our clue. So now this would be our objective room. Let's say that wasn't the clue though. Now we have 3. Let's say that was 3 exits. And then we divide the rest of the tokens by 3. And now we have 3 different paths that we can choose from looking for that final clue. And so that is how I do exploration. I think it works really well. It's super easy. It's super fast. You don't have to worry about counting movement. and I've had a lot of fun experimenting with this and getting it to work. I think it's worked really, really well. And one of the other things that I'm kind of working with is a way, again, to use these tokens as just kind of little thematic things. And so because we're having to deal with a spirit, I thought this lonely spirit token would be cool to encounter. And we're going to say that we need to search for a spell. So this spell scroll. So we have to find the spell scroll first before we can do any damage to the lonely spirit. And maybe the lonely spirit, we would use like a void sorcerer as the stats. And this is the character, this is the evil that we have to kill in order to rid the town of their curse. So this lonely spirit is represents that void sorcerer. So we take 12 tokens. I'm taking 10 tokens of the same thing, radio transmitters and what is this? Force field generators. These are just junk. These are things that we're not looking for. We're looking for the scroll and the spirit. So let's divide those up evenly, and then we will take the top 6. The bottom 6, give those a shuffle. Okay, so we don't know where the scroll is, and we don't know where the spirit is. Now, if we encounter this spirit before we find the scroll, it's going to haunt us. And at the beginning of each turn, we will take 2 horror hits that we will have to defend against. So now with the exploration tokens, we're ignoring the clues. We're ignoring the exclamation points, because those don't matter anymore. The things that matter, the things we're looking for, are now in this stack, but you play it out the exact same way. You hold back the darkness, roll for grit, you draw the next dungeon card in the direction that you are traveling and move down the darkness track. If you have a special encounter on a 1, yes. Next, you draw a quest and a exploration token. You reveal both of those. Is it a clue, an encounter, an attack, an ambush, a part of your quest? You check the potential exits on the map card compared to the exits on the exploration token and divide the tokens accordingly. After all the encounters, you can scavenge. Are there more tokens down the chosen path? If so, explore, go back to 1. Is it a dead end? Then you have to backtrack. You backtrack, you count the cards back to the map card with the unexplored tokens. Roll a d6. If you roll a 1, you are ambushed. So those are the rules. So let's do an example here. We are in the entrance. This is going to go real fast. Our first. Okay, so no exploration token. Here we are. We are at Dusty Crates. No, we do not encounter the Dusty Crates. We have a potential of 3 exits. We draw both of these now. Okay, we have an encounter. We would draw an encounter card and do that. It has 1 exit. And hey, look at right off the bat, we found our scroll. Cool. Now we don't have to worry about it. If we encounter the spirit now, we can fight her as normal, or fight it as normal, I should say. Okay, so 1 exit. So we are continuing down this path. We come to the rail tunnel. It has a possibility of 2 exits. We will draw both of these. 1 exit, 2 encounters. We would have 2 encounters. No spirit. And now we continue down this path. We find the hell pit. We would roll. We encounter the hell pit, yes. So then we would find the hell pit card and have that encounter. Then we would draw our exploration token. And we would have 2 encounters, 1 door. So we continue down this path and no spirit. Okay, a mining room. Possibility of 3 exits. We're going to draw our tokens. We are attacked, so we would have a threat. We would draw to have our attack there. We can ignore that. We have not found the spirit yet. And how many attacks? So this has 2 doors, okay? So there's a possibility of 3. So that means we need to divide these into 2. So 1, divide those like that from the bottom, keeping those in the same relative order. Okay, so now we have these 2 over on this side and these 2 on this side. So now we have to choose. We're going to explore this path or this path. Let's explore this path here. Okay, advanced ruins or ancient ruins. Yes, so we would have the ancient ruins. We would draw that card. And now we're going to explore. We are attacked in an ambush and no spirit. This has a possibility of 2 exits. There are 2 doors. So now these get further. Okay, so now we have 2 paths to go down. Let's go down this path first. Okay, so now we are over here. No exploration token. And this room here, we have an encounter and no spirit. 2 encounters, 2 doors, but there's no more tokens in this path here. So now we have to backtrack. We have to backtrack. We can either go all the way back to here and continue down this path, or we can backtrack to here and continue down that path. 1, 2, so we roll 2d6. If we roll a 1, we get ambushed. Okay, we are not ambushed. So now we are back here, and now we want to explore this path here. Okay, no exploration token. There we have 1 exploration, or we have the deep stone deposit, dark stone deposit. We would not encounter. We would draw that there. We have a growing dread card we would draw and an encounter. And again, no spirit. This has a possibility of 2 doors. This has a possibility of 3 doors, but there's only 1 exploration token left. So we're going to continue down that same path. And then we find our encounter. And no spirit. Okay, so now we need to now we're here, and now we need to backtrack all the way back to here. How many rooms? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we go back 4 cards. These can all be discarded now because there's no other tokens left over here. We don't need to backtrack anymore. Now we're going to roll 4d6 to see if we get ambushed. And no ambush. Okay, so now we're down this path here. We're still looking for that spirit so we can cast this magic scroll on it in order to stop the spirit of apathy. We are at a T-junction. That's 2 different paths there. Now the spirit is really well hidden. So let's take this path here. Rail switch. We do not encounter the rail switch. But we do have, there we go. Okay, so we found the spirit. So this would be our objective room. And now we would have to have a fight with the Void Sorcerer in order to win that particular mission. And so, yeah, that is how I'm handling exploration. It's so much faster than setting up the tiles. With dividing the tokens, it gives me a real sense of exploration, which is one thing that I appreciate. And it's one thing that is missing from actual vanilla Shadows of Brimstone. It is very easy with all of these tokens. It's very easy to come up with your own missions. There's all kinds of things that Shadows of Brimstone puts in the boxes of their games that you can really utilize for creating interesting scenarios and interesting missions. And next time we'll kind of talk a little bit about how I am abstracting some of the elements of combat and maybe continue on our adventures with Eli and Cornelia. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look at Shadows of Brimstone as a solo RPG, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.